So, herzlich willkommen, liebe Damen, liebe Herren. Schön, dass Sie da sind. Schön, dass die Keynote Speaker Area sofort voll ist bei dieser ersten Keynote eines vollen Programms. Für die kommenden beiden Tage werden wir jede Menge Keynote-Highlights Ihnen hier präsentieren können. Mein Name ist Thomas Ramge, ich bin der Technologiekorrespondent des Wirtschaftsmagazins Brand 1 und ich freue mich, dass ich in diesen 2 Tagen hier durchs Programm führen darf. Eine kurze optische Orientierung zum Anfang. Hier werden Sie spannende Slides sehen, die ganze Zeit unserer Speaker. Und da werden Sie Live Graphical Recording sehen von Fridolin von Wer wie was. Das heißt, viele von Ihnen kennen das natürlich. Sie bekommen die wesentlichen Punkte des Vortrags gleich in merkbaren visuellen Symbolen mitgezeichnet. Herzlichen Dank. Fridolin, danke, dass du da bist. Einen herzlichen Applaus für dich. Wir freuen uns auf deine Zeichenkünste, Live-Kreativität. Okay, and now we're going to switch into English. As our first speaker of this year's program is a highlight coming over from New York, working on a theme for many years that we are working on, or most of us are working on for many years as well, but maybe not as successful. What I mean by saying that is he works on change. Change is a difficult beast in the sense that everybody talks about it, but that it is so hard to get change really going. And that's exactly the angle from which our next speaker is addressing that problem, saying that it doesn't matter to talk about change. You need to invent methods and create a mentality in which change can really happen. And the method and tool that he has developed at the intersections of tools and movements is called working out loud. And we are very grateful and happy and honored that the founder of the Working Out Loud movement is here to speak out loud. Great you're here. John Stepper.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I love this crowd already. What I came here to offer you is something very practical, right? Something that you could take from this conference and use, whether it was for yourself at home or whether it was at work as part of something that you do. And it's something that's been missing for a long time. So I've worked in big companies for over 30 years, and particularly at work. So ever since my first job, I heard, oh, we've got to break down the silos. We have to be one company. This is in the late 80s and early 90s. We have to cross silos. We've got to connect. We've got to collaborate more. And then I would hear how we needed to become a learning organization. We keep duplicating the same mistakes. We're not taking advantage of what the company knows. And if we did that, if we only knew what we knew, we could innovate faster, we could reduce errors and rework. 30 years later, it's the same. This is what we have. The same messages, the same org charts, the same movie over and over. So we reorganize, we have a culture change program, we have a transformation program. And for anyone here who's as old as I am, I'm 54, you've seen that movie many times. And look, the org chart's not terrible, it's not going away anytime soon. It's just that it's not designed for the kind of information flow that we need and want now. It was designed 100 years ago for when our concept of what work was quite different. and when our understanding of what motivates us, why we do what we do, was quite different. So I wanted to come up with some way to make things better, some way to help individuals realize more of their potential, even inside this. I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to wait for the world of work to change, for the future of work, because it's been 30 years. I'm still waiting. So what can we do now? How do we shift from all these ideas that we kind of all agree on if we took a survey? What would make work better? What does the future of work need? And how do we go from ideas to practice? How do we change behavior? One way to do that is through working out loud. Now, businesses like it because, as this chief digital officer said, it's just a fundamental 21st century skill. There's something I want to do. I want to learn something. I want to build something. I want to change something. I can find people inside and outside the company who have knowledge related to that, who can help me in some way, so I could benefit and build on what they've done, what they've learned, what they've tried and failed, what they've succeeded at. And then I can build relationships with them so that we increase the chances of information exchange and collaboration. So that's why businesses like it, why people like it. And here are some tweets, and I'll just read some highlights. But individuals like it. First person says, hey, since I joined this thing, I feel like I'm on fire. Or, I love the people in my circle, and I'm happy to be part of a movement. Or the last one, it's teaching me how to become a better me. Now, those tweets aren't about digital transformation or the future of work. They're about a feeling. If you want to help somebody change, you help them. They're not going to remember what you said or even what you did. They're going to remember how you made them feel, as Toni Morrison said. So they felt something. Now, what is it? What is this working out loud that's somehow good for business but also good for individuals? Well, there are 5 elements, and I'll go through them quickly. At the heart of it are relationships. Because we've known for a very long time, and there's plenty of social network science to support this, that the way that information flows, the way you get access to knowledge and to opportunities is via other people. And we've also known that the way you earn that access, the way you build meaningful relationships, is through contributions over time. It's your contributions over time that build trust and deepen a sense of relatedness. And it's not a naive strategy to be generous at work. We're wired for that as social animals. We have evolved a very sophisticated give and take strategy so that we could do great things. Now, it's not about keeping score, right? So I could give to you, and I could give to you, and I could give to you. But I do so freely without expectations. Right? Because if I buy you coffee for an hour of your time, that's not a gift. That's an exchange. That's a transaction. And it feels different. But if I offer something, maybe it's my attention, maybe it's my appreciation, maybe it's visible work, and I do so freely, it feels different for me, and it feels different for you. And because we're social animals, over the course of my network, there will also be a natural benefit to me. And everybody wins. Now, those contributions, what are they? Well, I mentioned some of them. Some of them are things that we all have to offer and that everybody wants to receive, like attention, like appreciation or recognition. But some of them are visible work. What are you doing? Why? What have you learned? What resources have been helpful? What people have been helpful? What questions do you have that might let others demonstrate their expertise? What answers do you have? All of that, right? Not just the finished PhD thesis, but all of those things I mentioned can be made visible and framed in such a way that it's a contribution that can help others. You're not doing it to say, look at me. You're not doing it to toot your own horn or to show off. You're doing it to be helpful. And so it feels good for you and for the people who receive it. The last two elements are about an approach. So how you do it. Purposeful discovery means that you have a goal in mind. You have a theme in mind that orients who are you trying to build relationships with? What kinds of contributions are you trying to make? In this way, you're not just busy. You're not just sharing. Sharing in and of itself is nice. It may not lead anywhere. Purposeful discovery says, I've got a direction in mind. It may not be a plan. I may not know all the steps, but I have an orientation that tells me what kinds of contributions I'd like to make to what kinds of people and groups. And lastly is a growth mindset. How many people here have heard that phrase, a growth mindset? It simply means that I don't have a fixed mindset, meaning a label that I apply to myself. I'm good or bad at this. Other people are good or bad at this. I have a growth mindset. I am open, and I know that I can do anything with effort and practice over time. And what I find interesting about that phrase is that they teach it at schools now. So at my children's school, they'll have in the classroom or on the walls, they'll talk about developing a growth mindset so that kids don't give up, so they try new things, so they're curious, they'll experiment. But that same phrase was on the walls at Daimler at their conferences because companies want their employees to have that same mindset. Good ideas, not new, not enough. When I was working at a big company, I was working at Deutsche Bank for a long time. And it was 2011. I thought that the future of work was coming. Social intranets were a thing. And in 2011, I introduced an enterprise social network into Deutsche Bank. And I said, this is going to change everything. Now people have the power. Instead of just waiting for their boss to review them, they have the power to show their own work and have public feedback on it. They have the power to reach out to anybody in the company and establish their own network. But it didn't happen. Tools weren't enough. Ideas weren't enough. We needed something else because people were busy and distracted, and it's only gotten worse since then. And they were increasingly disengaged because work wasn't satisfying them. So for many people, it was a job, and they just had to get through it. And they were stuck. They were stuck in these deeply rooted habits. I go to work, I have a lot of meetings and conference calls, and that's work. And so the idea that they might reach out to people or share something that wasn't finished or take control of their own career even if they thought it was a good idea, they were too busy and distracted to change course. What I learned since then in the research and experiments I've done is this secret. Right? If you want to change anything, you want to change behavior, you want to learn a new skill, it's simple but not easy. Small steps, practiced over time, with feedback and peer support. That's what people needed at work. Not an inspiring talk, not the CEO telling them that they needed to do something. They needed the chance to do that in a psychologically safe space so they weren't going to be rated or judged or shamed. They could take these small steps, learn at their own pace, getting feedback and support along the way until it became a new habit or a new mindset. That's what Working Out Loud circles do. That's what I'm going to talk you through now, and that's what you can try yourself in the workshops in this conference with Sabine Kluge. I'll talk more about that later. A circle is just a group of 4 or 5, maybe 6 people. This is one at Bosch. You can meet in person, or you can meet virtually like this one at Daimler. And in your circle, you ask yourself 3 questions. There are simple guides to walk you through what to do week after week. Your circle will meet for an hour a week for 12 weeks. Simple guides walk you through the exercises and have you take these small steps. And you ask yourself 3 questions. What is it I would like to accomplish? You each pick your own individual goal. What is it that you care about? It could be a work goal, it could be something related to your job, or it could be something you want to change or learn or explore. Who's related to that? Like literally a relationship list that you'll grow and change as you discover more people, as you make more contributions. And finally, how do I build relationships with those people? And how do I do it in a way that feels authentic, that feels safe for me? I'll give you an example. So let's say you're in this room and you work in HR and you're in learning and development. And your goal might be as simple as, look, I've been doing this job for a while. I'd like to be in touch with new methods. It's probably why you're here. What's happening in learning and development? How would I learn what new methods I could apply at my job so I could be better at it, so it could be more interesting? Week 1, that's your goal. I'd like to explore new L&D methods and meet people inside and outside the company. Week 1, who's related to that goal? Well, some people you're going to know. You're going to list some people in your company. You'll know a few outside. And then you'll search the internet or intranet looking for other learning and development people. Who's writing about it? Who's speaking about it? Who's got that job title on Xing or LinkedIn? You make a list. And even in week 1, that's all you do. A goal, a list of people. But you've shared that, each of you, your individual goal. You've given voice to something that you genuinely want. And there's a bit of a spark or connection between the people in the circle. Right? It is a safe, confidential space. Week 2, week 3, you start to take baby steps. You start to make small contributions to people in your network, offering them attention by simply reading what they've written or hitting a like button or otherwise showing them, I see you and I'm interested in what you have to say. Appreciation in week 3. The steps start to get a little bigger. In week 4, it's about sharing a useful resource with someone in your network. And you start to do the exercises that teach you how to share that in a way that's effective, in a way that displays empathy, that's more likely to be received. Step by step by step, you make contributions that are gradually bigger and allow you to see all that you have to offer and how it can be the basis for relationships. So by week 6, by week 8, by week 9, you're experimenting with your own work and how you might frame that as a contribution. People are going to make progress at their own rate. So for some people, just reaching out to anyone is going to be progress. Just being open to finding people. And for others, they may use social media for the first time, or they may write about what they're doing for the first time. Any progress is good, and it's quite personal. By the end of the 12 weeks, you have a bigger network. So this isn't learning about network. This isn't taking a course so you could understand the concepts. This is doing. And over those 12 weeks, you build a bigger network. You've experimented with a range of different ways to interact with people, different tools. Some you're familiar with, some you're not. But at least you're exploring back to growth mindset. And that experience helps make you more comfortable with something that is already inside your company and certainly on the planet, which are how tools are used to bring people together. The tools are not the point. You can work out loud and make contributions over coffee and email. But the tools can amplify who you are and what you have to offer and extend your reach. When people finish their circle, the number one word that they use is they say, "I feel empowered." And they'll look like this. There's a group of people in a company, they didn't know each other, but after their 12 weeks, they said, "We felt like friends." Why? It's a learning program. And there's no teacher. They're doing it on their own. So why would they feel empowered and connected like that? And the reason is, it's because we're wired that way as human beings. We all have these intrinsic motivators for a sense of control, a sense of progress or competence, getting better at something, and a sense of connection to other people, to a purpose. So in your circle, when there's no boss, right? There's no instructions other than the guides. You pick the goal. You decide who to reach out to. You decide which contributions you're going to make and how, right? That's control. That's why they feel empowered. And week by week, as you're in this small group, without judgment or competition, you feel like, I've shared that, hey, I struggled with this, could you help me? A little bit of exchange of vulnerability and support week by week makes you feel like that. Okay, so now when I'm in audiences with management, particularly German, they'll say, "Yeah, genau, but..." Yeah, the Germans love to be direct, and I respect that. Okay, it sounds good, maybe. I'm glad that people feel better, and I'm glad that they're learning a skill. I'm in HR, I'm at an HR conference, I got a job to do. How's it going to help me? So I want to give you 5 ways. Right? And these aren't the only 5 ways, but I wanted to give you 5 use cases so you could connect this practice to what you do. Because working out loud is not the end. It is not the goal. It's a means. It's a means to helping employees develop more of themselves, realize more of their potential, and to help the company, by extension, reach more of its potential. It's that missing piece. So use cases. First is onboarding. And this is Janine Kirchhoff at Daimler, who was the first person to connect Working Out Loud circles into an onboarding program. Now, in general, what happens in companies is that Working Out Loud starts with one person who forms the circle. If they like it, they tell their friends. And then over time, they start to have data or testimonials or feedback that says, hey, it's working and people like it. It supports the goals of the company. So that's when HR will say, that's interesting. How can we integrate it into an existing program so we could help you spread it? And it's not instead of a program, it's just to complement what you're already doing. So imagine you're a new person, you join Mercedes Bank, you join Daimler, you don't know anybody, right? You don't know where the toilets are. So you're hungry to be connected to this company. And so you get the usual orientation, you get the history, you get the safety procedures, and you get the chance, the option, you're not forced into anything, the option of joining a group of people. Ideally, it's a mix of new people, but also experienced people. And step by step, week by week, you use the company's tools to see what's out there, to meet people and interact with people, potentially collaborate with people who do what you do. You learn how to navigate the company using their own tools in a way that makes you more connected and productive than just stumbling through it on your own, looking at an inbox. So if you've got an onboarding program, giving people the option of this self-organized learning program is one use case. Diversity. This is BMW. And what I love about BMW, besides the cars, is that their grassroots movement went very slowly, a few circles here and there, until the diversity group said, you know what, this could be useful for us. Because I bet every company here has some kind of diversity program. And I'm sure it's good. Good training, you've got events, so people show up, and what do they all tell you? We love the networking. More, please. But all they could really do is wait for the next event. This gives them something to do. So now what you're doing in your diversity community, in your program, is you're giving people the opportunity, again, it's only an option, to say, join a circle and develop this skill of earning your own access. So while we talk about and work on systemic change for diversity, you can learn how to increase your own odds through this practice. And that's probably the best gift a diversity program can give one of its community members. And so what happened is, word spread, more circles formed, they reached the head of the Works Council and other senior managers, and they tied it into other programs. There's something they call a Walcon. They've had these at a few other companies. And these are huge events. The CEO of Rolls-Royce is there, 500 people, 2,000 on the waiting list, right? Not because of working out loud, but because of the chance, really, to develop themselves. But the wedge, the entry point, the thing that made it scale was starting with an existing program. Innovation, digital transformation, those are programs now that really, it seems every company I talk to has in the last few years. Again, these aren't meant to be islands in the company. If your innovation program is in a secret place with fancy furniture, right, and open seating, that's not enough. What the reason for these programs is to spread a set of behaviors that really anybody could practice, at least to some degree. So if you have an idea, please, here's how you find other people related to that idea so you can bring it to life. Right? So at ZF, that's where they started. After their grassroots movement started to gain traction, it was an innovation event where we spoke to engineers in Friedrichshafen. And that led to some institutional support for the practice. And again, it complemented an existing program. It was a missing piece that said, we've got the facilities, we've got the funding, we've got the startup accelerator, we've got all of these things. This helps us with behavior change that can spread. Knowledge management, again, if you're as old as I am, you've seen knowledge management now for 30 years. And largely it's been about tools and process. And what's missing is human beings, right? What's missing is people. I show a picture of a car factory because I spoke to a head of plant engineering, so a manufacturing executive, and he said he was a big proponent of introducing a social network into the company. And that surprised me. Like, why would somebody who does that kind of work care about a social network? And he said, because all of our plants aren't the same. And if I have in final assembly, there's a defect that's happening in Mexico City, where there's an innovation to improve quality, I want that to spread. And social networks are the way to help it spread. So working out loud can complement an existing KM program so that knowledge management isn't just about tools and process, but it's a set of behaviors that have people sharing their work more regularly and at different stages, but also looking for it so they don't repeat the same mistakes and they can build on it. And then finally, culture change. Again, How many people here have either been part of or have a culture change program? It's a lot. And this one was at Daimler. They have a great program called Leadership 2020, and I got to know them, and their tour was called the Grow the Network Tour, right? So that's my T-shirt that they gave me. And they literally went to these places to talk about the entire program, but also to encourage the people that went, some 800 people, to spread it, to spread the different elements of Leadership 2020. How do you do that? How does somebody sitting in a conference room go out and spread anything? And so one of the practices they wanted to give them was working out loud. Join a circle, develop these skills for yourself, and that's how we take this kind of mindset and spread it. Now, it's good that we have these use cases. It's good that it's corporate friendly. That's not why it spreads, though. Why it spreads is because, as I said before, people feel something. And so it's not me that's doing anything. And it's not even just HR people that are doing it. It's individuals that emerge and say, this thing worked for me, I want to tell my friends and help them. Like this guy, Tiago, in the front. Tiago called us from Sao Paulo. Tiago works at ZF. He had been in the global circle. And afterwards, he's like, I get it. This helps the people here at ZF in Brazil. It's also good for Brazilians. So I want to spread it. So he organizes a community of people in Brazil to spread these circles. There are people globally, some from different companies, from Bosch, from ZF, there's me. And he organizes a group to translate the materials. The guides are all free on workingoutloud.com. He offers to translate them into Portuguese so that Brazilians could practice. And he says this, I feel good, I feel good working for something that will help people develop themselves and connect to new possibilities. It captured this sense of how being generous can lead to good things for the individual and the company. Here's Connie Wu in China, the unstoppable Connie Wu. She's in yellow in the corner. That's me. That's her Working Out Loud circle. Again, I don't know Connie or didn't know her then, but she wrote to me because she experienced something in a circle, a sense of empowerment, a sense of confidence. And so she says, I want to spread this in China. She reaches out to a business school there. It's a French business school that's now one of the larger in China, and she organizes a cross-company event just so that she could have other people in China experience it. She, too, translates the guides with a team into Mandarin to make it easier for them to practice. And what she told me was, look, China, we have a history and a culture of doing business based on relationships, but sometimes it could be a bit too closed. And this can help us be more open. This can make our world bigger. And what she said is, we're working out loud not just because we like it and like the method, but because we're hungry for what work could be like. Like me back in that picture when I had a lot of hair. You knew that it could be better. And you wanted it. You just didn't know what steps to take. So, if we go from starting as a grassroots movement to spreading circles and integrating them into existing programs, if you want to see what success looks like this. This is Katarina Krentz, our friend, who in 2015, I had just written a book. There's a first version of the Circle Guides. It was very early. I was still working at Deutsche Bank. And we have a conference call, and she listens. She'd been reading some blog posts I read, and she said, I want to try it. So she goes to her boss and she says, there's this thing, working out loud, I want to form a circle. And her boss says, no. Like, we don't have time for that, we're very busy, there's a lot of things going on. And fair enough, Katarina says, I'll do it on my own time. So she does. And she likes it enough that she tells her friends, they form a few more. And what Katarina has done since then, since 2015, is she's been an internal champion without anyone telling her. She's been an internal champion to spread it. So she would make explicit the connections between this practice and Bosch's goals. Like their strategy is to become a more connected company in the digital age. They've got their social network, they've got all sorts of initiatives and investments in that direction. And this was the missing piece for them. She was the first one to use that phrase to me. This was about people's behavior and doing it in a way that was intrinsically motivated. Well, over time, after they start to get 20, 30, 50 circles, she collects data. So now she's got data she could show to HR, and that leads to more programs and spreading the movement. There's a Working Out Loud conference in 2016, and then another one in 2017. I'm going to go back next month. There'll be a third annual Working Out Loud conference. And then, I don't know how she did this, she gets press releases from the company. There are 400,000 people. And they issue a press release about why they do this. And in this particular release, there were two of them. It's an interview with a board member. He's the head of HR. He's head of industrial relations at Bosch. And he said two things that I'll share. The reason why we do it is because it gives employees the chance to experience this way of working that we've been talking about in the company. It gives you a chance to experience network-based collaboration independent from where you are in the org chart. So they've been talking about this skill, here's a way to do it, and then it's easy to spread and people like it. All right, so that was the feedback that he was getting. And so he said, look, if we've been wanting to do this thing, people seem to like it, it's easy to spread because circles are self-forming and self-managing. Great. And so as a result, it's on the cover of HR magazines, whether this is the number one or number two magazine, depends on the audience. It's in companies, right? A wide range. Yes, there are German names up there, but there's also people from Australia. There's the Union for Reformed Judaism. There are universities. There's a municipal government in Bologna, in Italy. The guides are now in 7 languages. And that's great. So if you leave here today with, hey, thanks very much, I've got an idea, and I can try this at home. I can just go to the website and download the free guides, try it myself, or maybe I can introduce it at my company, or talk to one of these other companies about their experience, and it helps you with one of your programs. That's great. I think you could do more. I think Working Out Loud can do more, and it's why I'm here, it's why this is what I do for a living now. Because for a long time, as people talk about work and why we work and what motivates us, it's more than about programs and missing pieces. And it was summed up nicely in an author of a book about working. He wrote it 45 years ago. His name is Studs Terkel. And he interviewed people across a wide range of jobs about what they do for a living and how they feel about what they do. Great book. And what he said was this, and I'll read you the quote. Work is about a search for daily meaning, as well as your daily bread, for recognition as well as cash, and for astonishment, right? Even happiness, instead of just drudgery. for a sort of life instead of a Monday through Friday sort of dying. That's what people are hungry for. And why I'm thrilled to be here amongst so many HR people is because I think you have an awesome power and a responsibility even to help people with that search. It's good for them, it's good for you, it's good for the company. So today, I'm asking, please consider, I know you're busy, I know there's a lot going on at work, I know it's not easy, but consider taking a step. And it could be as easy as going to a workshop with my friend Sabine Kluge. I love that picture. That's in Munich, by the way. Sabine has worked, she's given talks here. She's worked in HR for 20 plus years, although she's very young. And she's been spreading working out loud. She's done it herself, but she spreads it inside companies. And she's giving workshops where you can get a taste of a circle for yourself. Not just hear more words, but actually do it and practice it. Try it. It's free. Take a step, see what it might be like, see how it might help you and the people around you. Because you have the power to make work better, but also life better. And I wish you well. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ja, genau. Aber.
Ja, genau. That's the one phrase I really know.
Thanks a lot for that
get some water.
engaging talk. I'm going to open up the session for Q&As for you as well, but let me kick off with one question. As you were as blunt to call us Germans so blunt, let me ask you a blunt question. A lot of what you teach, or maybe you don't call it teach, but what you've invented is, let's say, it's common sense. It's reframing psychology in an intelligent way. So you could assume that a lot of what you're saying and what the circles are doing should be just natural.
Right.
So why do people, with all the empathy as we humans do have, even we Germans sometimes, don't do that? What you have to sort of incent, organize, sort of spark?
That's a great question. Because, and I consider it a compliment that you said, hey, this is common sense. And diet and exercise are common sense. We should eat well, and we should move. And you'll live longer. But still people don't. That's your life. You'll live longer. Not enough motivation. So that tells me, and my own experience has been, you need the time and the space to actually take those small steps, practice them over time, and get feedback and peer support along the way. So if I've done something, it's that I've created a structure that's scalable and easy to spread, where people have that space at work. And that's why it takes common sense and packages it in such a way that you can actually practice it and experience the benefits.
Thanks. What are your questions or very short comments? I have a microphone here.
All right. Thank you. I love when people ask questions.
And I'm going to keep the microphone just to inform all of you so that you can talk forever.
Hello. Thank you very much for that wonderful insight on how you made it work within companies. I'm just wondering, because I've been working a lot as a volunteer in associations and organizations that are non-profitable organizations. There is also the thought of giving something into the organization. Unfortunately, I must admit, I made the experience that most of the time that contribution is not valued. It's like you're not getting back anything from the network. How do you make this work in let's say, an open network where you don't have the commitment because you're working at a company, but because you're part of some voluntary contributive work? and it's not like you're limited or like you have a limited number of people in that network?
Okay,
How do you establish that? That would be interesting to know.
Thanks, Charlotte.
I'm going to try and replay that question, see if I got it. So, look, sometimes you have something to give, and it may be in an organization where it's not their first job or first priority, so it's hard to get a response, maybe, or it's hard to get recognition for your contributions. What do? Two quick things. First is you don't take it personally, right? So through the guides and through week by week, there are just techniques for helping you deal with your own expectations and what to do when someone either doesn't respond or doesn't respond in the way you like, number one. So part of that's in your head. Second part is most people think too small. So it is a big planet, right? There are 4 billion people on the internet. So whatever it is you're trying to do, there are probably 1,000 times as many people who could be in your network than are. And so making your contributions in such a way or looking for people on your relationship list that's broader and more diverse than what you might normally do increases the odds. And again, there's a range of techniques week by week that could help you experience that. Is it a guarantee? No. But will it increase the chances that you will find someone in a purposeful way who will respond? Absolutely.
Next question is right here. Nine.
Okay. Hello. John, I have a question referring the point you talked about change, yeah? There's a moment, it is the end, about people, yeah? When you have people that are not able to change, that maybe some call it change resistant or however you would call it. Do you have an advice for me as a young starter in being a change agent for small and mid-sized companies, when you would recommend to say, okay, it is the end? What is your answer to this, that you feel, okay, with this person, with this particular person, I would give the advice? Do you have a criteria? Do you have a mindset for this? Thank you.
Thank you. The short answer is stop wasting your time. I've made this mistake myself. I tried to reach everybody. I tried to convince everybody. And what I wound up doing was just diluting my energy and attention across everybody. That's not how change happens. Change happens in small waves, right, that build on each other. So your job as a change agent is not to appeal to everybody, it's to find those early adopters and make them feel like they're part of something, right? So you include and engage them. And now you've got a small grassroots movement, and now you equip and empower them so they could spread it along with you. And you look for the next wave of early adopters, and so on and so on. You may never get to the people who are like, I'm not going to do this. That's okay. The tipping point for culture change may be as little as 15% of your company. So if you're speaking to the last 85%, don't start there. Start early with early adopters and think of it as building out wave after wave as a tribe of people that's doing it with you. Thank you for that.
Is that the next question? Excellent.
I love when people... See, this is control. People want the microphone.
I need the control, yes. No, I'm in a circle at this moment with my colleagues at VDAB. And we're in the 11th week, and one of my colleagues hasn't reached her goal and feels so sad about it. Me too. What can I do to help her?
Okay. So a little bit about the goal is that you pick something that you're curious about, that genuinely sparks your interest. So that's what motivates you to do the exercises, right? Now, in your case, some people accomplish their goal. I got a new job. I met people who helped me with this, learning this skill. But sometimes you don't. But she's gained a set of skills and techniques that she can apply to any goal. So it's not a binary, I failed. I didn't make it. No, she did make it. She made it through week 11, and now she's like, I get it, and next time I will. So that's one answer. The other is a number of people, that initial goal turns out not to be what they really loved. So they go through, they pick something they think they should want, and after a few weeks they say, you know what, this doesn't feel right. And there was a woman at one of these large companies I mentioned. In week 7, there's an exercise that involves some reflection. And after week 7, she said, you know, I'm going to change my goal altogether. I'm going to change the course of my life altogether. And that's purposeful discovery. That it's not a plan to get there step by step, but you explore that direction, and maybe it's right, and maybe you hit the target you set, or maybe you just refine your own sense of what you like and don't like while you build a skill. Thank you, Annemie.
Thanks. Who's next? We have time for two more questions, I think. Right in the front row.
Thank you. That's a contribution right there.
So you are talking about the people and their self-leadership. Now, I think it is very important that we are talking about the change of the leaders, so the behavior of the leaders. Can you describe this a little bit? We are talking in our company about inclusion, inclusive leadership. Is this, do you think this is a good description for that?
So what about the managers, and what do we do about them? And is it related to or inclusive leadership? So 2 things. First, I did not want to wait for them to change, right? Because that made me a victim. That took away my control. So I wanted to give people something that they could do. Having said that, managers clearly have an outsized influence on people in the company. Two things. First is inclusive leadership. I like that phrase because through your contributions, through your thoughts, your work that you're sharing, that is a kind of leadership, right? Hey, on this topic, and Sabina was a great example of this. Hopefully, maybe you could touch on that in your workshops. How you could lead from anywhere, not with authority, not by appointment, but by contribution. Like, hey, that person knows something about this topic. Second is we've adapted the practice, starting with Bosch, but now at ZF and other places, and have a simpler version for managers. Because for them, a circle isn't necessarily a safe, confidential space. So we adapted it for a reverse mentoring program so that they could get the same benefits, the same sense, the same exploration, but in a different kind of safe and confidential space. And if you're interested, I could talk to you more about it afterwards. But thank you for that.
Thanks, John. We get the next question right here.
Thank you so much for your books and your articles you already wrote.
Where are you?
Right here, John.
Thank you.
On the right wing.
Thank you very much.
And what you mentioned is that you developed most of this based on what you just discovered, what worked for you. But there's a whole, I would call it industry, and a lot of research on consulting, on training, on generative coaching and all of this. What way do you like to develop working out loud forward, or what kind of ideas would you like to integrate more deeply into your approach? Because it seems to be a super integrative approach.
Wow, I love that question.
He wasn't paid for it.
Yes. So in short, what's next? Like, what else could we use this for? And my new friend Winfried Felser we were talking about this yesterday. My aspiration is to change how people relate to each other and to themselves and to the work that they do. Because inside the company I saw how work, it seemed to appeal to the worst of us in some cases. But it didn't have to be that way. It was the environment that did that. So how could we change that? So this first practice, working out loud, and these circles, it's a very, very business-friendly, way to change how you relate to other people. It's more generous, it's more open, but still effective. Think of that as a first step. What I developed over the summer, I was in Japan, and I wrote a second practice that helps you change how you relate to yourself. And there's a third practice that helps with your personal productivity. And to your point, once circles are inside a company, once someone's gone through it, now you've got this learning vehicle that's easy to spread and scale. It's very lightweight, doesn't require much management or cost. Now you could feed that channel, right, that network, with other behaviors. And my mission over the next, as long as I'm alive, is to work on practices that can improve how we relate to each other, to ourselves, and to our work. That'll make the workplace nicer, more effective. It'll make the planet a little nicer and more effective. So this is phase one. Thank you. Yeah, thanks very much.
Excellent. Maybe got time for a very last short question. If anybody feels urged to it. Here I come.
Thank you very much for this very inspirational talk.
Oh, thank you.
Just a simple question. What is the ideal size of a group?
4 to 5 people. And the reason is, very quickly, that number gives you enough diversity of perspective and networks and resources and experience. So it's big enough. But bigger than that, and there tends to be too much communications overhead. So just catching up each week could take 20 minutes. So 4 to 5 is an ideal number. What's happened in practice, so originally we would meet in a cafe, 4 or 5 people. What's happened in practice is that at least half, in fact maybe more of that, more of these circles are multi-location. So they meet by video, and if you're in a company, for example, Bosch just did an experiment with Sabine Kluge. They had 350 people, and each circle was across several time zones. Why? Because they want to reduce this sense of us and them. Oh, those people in India. Oh, those people in Stuttgart, right? And they humanize the company across divisions, across locations. And that's why Bosch is now in 48 countries with circles. And I really love that. It makes the circle diverse, interesting. You're not really competing because you don't know these people. It's a lovely experience. Thank you.
Thanks, John. You were mentioning the workshops a couple of times.
Yes.
Where do they take place? Are they open or on reservation only? How can people join in?
Can you come up and get the mic?
Yeah, sure.
Because these workshops, she's great. It's a little annoying to me that she does the workshops better than I do them. But you're going to be here for, is it 3 days? Yeah.
So where do they take place? Are they open for anyone to join? Or?
I can do that in German.
Ja.
Right? Okay. Also die Workshops beginnen heute 14:30 Uhr, morgen 13:30 Uhr, übermorgen 13:30 Uhr in dieser Halle 2.1. Da hinten in der Ecke, da ist die Blogger Lounge und daneben ist der Workshop Raum 3. Und ja, einfach dabei sein. Wir machen auch was Praktisches, aber wir reden schon auch nochmal drüber, wie implementieren wir das am besten im Unternehmen, sodass alle so viel Spaß haben, wie der John das beschrieben hat.
Ist es eher was für Leute, die schon Teil eines Circles sind oder für absolute Beginners?
Ich habe einfach gedacht, ich mache mal so einen bunten Strauß für alle. Das heißt, wir fangen ganz, ganz vorne an. Kollegen, die schon circlen, erfahren sicher nochmal den einen oder anderen Aspekt, den sie vielleicht jetzt in den Circle Guides noch nicht so wahrgenommen haben. Und ganz frische Anfänger sind natürlich auch herzlich willkommen. Wir fangen ganz vorne an.
Vielen Dank. Ich bin sicher, der eine oder andere hat Lust, dahin zu gehen. I'm sure that many of you will have now looking forward to be part of that movement if you're not already. As you're a big fan of national stereotypes, may I give you one on Americans?
Oh, God, here we go.
They are great speakers.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks
that
a lot.
stereotype I like. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you.
John Stepper.
Thank you.
Honor and pleasure having had you here.
Thank you very much.
So, und hier geht's